You know, I thought I'd take this morning, it's about 8:16 this morning on this Tuesday, which is basically about 13 days away or 14 days away, depending on how you look at it, from Christmas or from Christmas Eve or from Christmas. And, you know, it says right there on the title, this is basically why I feel, my opinion, Ian Flynn, as some fans, probably does a better job with Mega Man and Crusaders. And it's not me that's saying this, I'm just saying this from what I've heard from many people in many forms. I have not yet subscribed to the Mega Man comics. I might do that in the future or whatever, especially with the crossover. But I've yet to really find any. I've never really been that big of a Mega Man fan. I know who he is and all that, and I've watched some of the cartoons and the animes, so I know who Mega Man is. It's just, I haven't really been into him that much. I guess you could probably thank the Captain N, the Game Master portrayal of Mega Man, for my disinterest in the character. And then, of course, you take a look at how the Mega Man looks in the Street Fighter Cross Tekken game. It'll kind of give you an idea, too. But anyway, I thought I'd kind of give my opinion on why many feel Ian does a better job, from what I'm hearing, from what I'm reading, why Ian Flynn does a better job with Mega Man. Well, here's why I think it is. You see, when Ian Flynn first came on board, it was hired on as the head writer, or was promoted, because I think he was around Archie Comics at the time, but he was still like a ghost editor or something like that, I'm not really sure. And I think this was about a year or so before he got it, or whatever. I don't know the time frame. But when Ian Flynn let's just say basically got hired on to be the head writer, take over for the previous writers, be the writer, if you will. A lot of fans in the community, on the online communities, were online Sonic fan forums and fan bases and sites. A lot of fans were happy about this, because one of their own was actually going to be the head guy. It was going to be the writer for the comic. He was going to be the one that planned things out, wrote the stories, how they were going to go. We were all happy about this. We were all in the community happy about the fact that he was getting this opportunity. It's kind of a bit of an equivalent to when, for an example, when you have some independent wrestlers that many independent fans, IWC or YWC purists, as some people like to be called, that follow every aspect of wrestling, from the big promotions to the independent promotions, and become more so fans of independent than the bigger guys. That when the independent guys finally get signed on and then eventually called up to the main roster of the bigger promotions, a lot of fans of independent wrestling are like, yes, independent wrestling on the big stage, independent wrestling taking over. I'll give you an example. Last month, we had the debut of a group called The Shield in the WWE. And this consisted of two of the best independent wrestlers that fans have seen. More importantly, out of promotions known as Ring of Honor and Combat Zone Wrestling. And those wrestlers were Dean Ambrose, known on the independent scene as John Moxley, and Seth Rollins, known in Ring of Honor and independent scene as Tyler Black. So a lot of fans were happy about that. And even earlier this year, fans were happy when CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, who was known as Bryan Danielson in Ring of Honor and Independence, were wrestling for the WWE Championship in several pay-per-views. That was basically like a dream come true for them. And the reason is because finally they were getting their people, their independent stars, as being featured. They were getting them finally taking over, if you know what I mean. And that's kind of like when Ian Flynn came on board. I know it's a strange comparison, but it's kind of like when he came on board. Fans were happy about it because one of their own was actually writing the comic. And I will admit, he did a great job when he first started. He showed that he has the potential to be one of the best. But as time has gone on, and many people have observed, he's kind of basically fallen in some people's eyes, has fallen into the same trap that previous writers before him on the comic have fallen into. And that's the political trap, the mandate trap. Now, Ian Flynn, of course, has not been afraid to come out and say, hey, I don't like the mandates any more than you guys do, but there's not much I can do. So, let's see, what was it? Oh yeah, basically, you know, like I said, Ian Flynn's not afraid to come out and say that he doesn't like the mandates, because like I was just saying before I lost my train of thought there for a second, you know, he's basically come out and said, hey, look, I don't like the mandates any more than you guys do, but what am I going to do about it? There's nothing I can do. I have to follow orders. I mean, it's like he said to one person, he said, yeah, I could go against the grain, I could say no, and next thing I know, I could be out of a job. So yeah, you know, that's how many fans are looking at it, right? Some fans are looking at it right now with Ian, is the fact that he has fallen into that same trap, and it's going to be a hard time, it's going to be hard for him to climb out of it. While others, they still support him and say, hey, give him a time. He's doing a great job. These stories are better than you think. That's kind of like, you know, like I said, with the whole comparison to the wrestling deal. You know, right now, CM Punk's been champion for over a year. And some fans, a lot of the independent wrestling purists, if you will, fans, or independent wrestling fans, I should say, are still behind him because he's their guy. He's a champion. He's holding the most prestigious title in wrestling for over a year. They're still behind him. And they have been very vocal at times at the fact that they don't want him to have to drop it to somebody like, say, The Rock next month, who's only a part-time performer, or semi-part-time performer. You know, they don't want that to happen. They want him to keep it. You know, and again, it's kind of like the equivalent. You know, you have, on the other side, you have fans going like, well, CM Punk's a great competitor, but, you know, things are getting boring. Things are going downhill. Maybe they need to take the belt off him now. It's time, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, he's done it already. He's brought prestige back. Blah, blah. It's time for him to drop it. Give it to someone different. You know, and that's basically, like I said, that's the equivalent. When you take a look at it, it's weird. It's a weird comparison, but it's true. It's true. And that's how fans feel about Ian. You know, there are still some that, like I said, there are still some that are loyal to him and feel he's still potentially one of the best, if not the best, thing to happen in the comic. And, you know, basically feel like, hey, you know, give him a chance. You know, these stories are great. Give him a chance, kind of do. While others look at him like, yeah, you know, he's falling into that same trap again, guys. That everybody else has. Maybe it's time to move on or something. You know, and again, the comparisons are uncanny, are basically uncanny, but it's true. Now, the reason, from what I understand, Ian, the Mega Man comics, in some people's eyes, even those that don't like his work currently right now in the Sonic comics, the reason a lot of people, and like I said, even those that don't like his work on the Sonic comics right now, feel he's doing better with the Mega Man comics and maybe even the New Crusaders, is because with Mega Man and the New Crusaders, he's doing the one thing that any fan, any comic book fan would hope to do if they ever got hired on to be a head writer or a comic book writer for a company, for a major company, and that's being able to write their own book be able to write their own stories from scratch, not have to not have to follow up on previous stories and build on continuity that previous writers had wrote and built on, but the fact that let me get some coffee here, folks. Again, basically, he doesn't have to depend, with Mega Man, basically what I'm trying to say is he doesn't have to depend on that previous continuity that other previous writers had wrote and built on, and he doesn't have to worry about building and continuing stories or going back to stories that other writers have done. Basically, and this is again for anybody that gets hired on as a comic book writer, for any comic book promotion or company, basically when you're given the opportunity to write a new comic from scratch, from start, that allows you to basically have your own fresh ideas. You don't have to worry about building on previous writers' work, because what you're doing is your own work. There's nothing to build on. You're the one building it. You're the one building it brick by brick, stone by stone. And that is exactly why many fans feel, in my opinion, Ian's doing better with Mega Man and New Crusaders. Because basically, he's building, especially with Mega Man, I don't know much about New Crusaders, but I'm pretty sure he's in that same category. But basically with Mega Man, he's building, the story arcs brick by brick, stone by stone. He's not depending on previous story arcs or previous stories or story arcs that other writers have done. He's not depending on trying to build on the continuity that other writers had and already wrote and built on, because he's doing it by scratch. He's doing it by himself. He's doing it by scratch. So basically that, if let's say somebody else was to come on board and take over for Mega Man as the head writer, they would have to build, they would basically be in the same situation probably as Ian. Maybe not, I don't know. But they would basically have to build on Ian's, continuity, on what he's wrote. Kind of like what Ian's doing right now. And would that cause a new writer to probably end up in the same trap as Ian, or in the same situation as Ian, as some people have looked at him, right? Many people have looked at Ian right now with the comics, where he basically has to, crawl and try to make his way back up and everything, because he's falling down due to politics and all that. Would they falter? Would they falter in that same category? Maybe, maybe not. And I know both Sonic and Mega Man are owned by two different video game companies. I get that, and maybe the mandates are different from each other. I understand that too. But again, despite that, the reason I feel, in my opinion, Ian Flynn may be doing better in the eyes of fans, and some that don't like what he's doing on Sonic right now, and those that do, in the eyes of basically both of them, both sides, the reason they feel he's doing better on Mega Man is because he's doing it from scratch. He's not depending on the previous writings and story arcs of a Carl Bollers, a Ken Penders, and whoever else. He's not depending on that. He's basically doing it by himself. It's by scratch. It's his own thing. It's its own little project. It's his own comic. So that is why I feel, in my opinion, by reading what people have said about Ian Flynn and how they feel he's doing on the Mega Man comic compared to the Sonic comic, is because Mega Man is basically his own thing. He's not depending on the previous works of others. So that's all I'm going to say on it. Take it for what you will, but let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with that? Video responses are greatly appreciated. Comment down below, and I'll talk to you all later.